You ever notice how nobody actually prepares you for being normal? Not a failure, not a success, just average? Not the smartest guy in the room, not the strongest, not the richest, not even the most charismatic. Just somewhere in the middle. And growing up, nobody tells you how that's supposed to feel. Because when you're young, everyone talks about potential. You're told you're gifted, you're told you're capable of greatness, you're told you can be anything. But nobody explains what happens when you realize you might not be exceptional. And that realization doesn't hit all at once. It creeps in. Nobody says it out loud, but men live in a constant hierarchy awareness. Income, status, strength, competence, respect. You walk into a room and you subconsciously measure, where do I rank? And most of us land somewhere in the middle, not dominant, not invisible, just present. And the middle is very strange. You don't get sympathy, you don't get admiration, you just get expectation. You're expected to improve, always improve. There was a time when average felt normal. Now average feels like failure. Because now you see the top 1% every single day. You see the 24-year-old millionaire, the influencer with perfect lighting and perfect abs, the couple traveling the world, the high value narrative, and slowly your brain starts to distort reality. You forget that algorithms amplify extremes. You forget that every viral success story,
Well, can't complain, I guess.
there are millions of steady, disciplined men living quiet lives. Building slowly, winning privately, but quiet wins don't get views. Here's the uncomfortable part. A lot of us didn't just want stability. We wanted to be significant. We wanted to stand out, to be admired, to be respected automatically, to walk into a room and feel like we earned space. But when that doesn't happen, it hits your ego. And if you don't process that properly, it turns into one of three things: bitterness, escapism, apathy. You either blame the world, or numb yourself with dopamine, or quietly give up. None of those build anything. There was a moment a few years ago where this hit me harder than I expected. Nothing dramatic happened, no big failure, no public embarrassment. It was quieter than that. I remember scrolling late at night, seeing people my age buying houses, launching businesses, getting promotions, and objectively, I wasn't doing terrible. But I had responsibilities, I had stability, I wasn't reckless. But I remember this strange feeling in my chest, like I was watching life instead of leading it, like I was fine. And fine felt dangerous. It wasn't jealousy exactly. It was this internal pressure, like I had more in me, but I wasn't accessing it. And the worst part wasn't being behind, it was knowing I had started to coast, started to accept good enough, started to lower the internal standard without admitting it. The realization was uncomfortable because it forced me to ask, am I actually incapable? Or am I just undisciplined? And that's a harder question to face. I think a lot of men hit that point. Not rock bottom, just stagnation. And stagnation is harder to talk about because it doesn't look dramatic. It just looks like normal life. But internally, it feels like you're shrinking. The real danger isn't being average. The real danger isn't being average, it's drifting. Waking up at 35 realizing you stopped pushing at 27 Because somewhere along the line you thought, if I'm not being exceptional, then what's the point? That mindset kills more potential than failure ever could. You don't need to be the best in the world, but you do need to be dangerous to your own excuses. Here's what doesn't go viral. The man who goes to work consistently, lifts even when he doesn't feel like it, stays loyal, pays his bills, shows up for his family, improves 1% a month. That man might never trend, but he builds a life, and after 10 years, he looks nothing like the guy who drifted. Average, compounded over time becomes uncommon, but it requires patience, and patience doesn't feel powerful in your 20s. Maybe average isn't a ceiling. Maybe it's just a starting point. Most men aren't born extraordinary. They become disciplined. They become competent. They become steady. They become reliable. And that transformation isn't loud. It's repetitive. It's boring. It's invisible at first, but it's real. Nobody prepares you for being an average man, because average sounds like an insult, but maybe it's just human. Maybe the goal was never to be exceptional to strangers. Maybe it was to become exceptional in your own standards, to build something you respect, to become someone you don't resent. The world doesn't need more viral men, it needs more grounded ones. And if you're somewhere in the middle right now, that's not a verdict, it's just your current position on the map. Where will you go from here? That is still yours. And that part still matters.